I was working with surrendering to the fact that I might need to do chemotherapy. So there's this balance about success and you wanting success so much, but you also need to be okay with failure. And that's the
Yes.
fine line.
Welcome to Expanding Wallet, home for empowerment. We inspire greatness and help you learn skills for creating generational wealth. My name is Andrew Clark, and I'm the founder of Expanding Wallet. And today's guest is a fighter. At age 24, she was diagnosed with cancer and told that she only had a few weeks to live. However, with some chemotherapy and a strong belief that she was going to make it through, she won that battle. And she realized how powerful our belief and mindset can be, and she decided to coach others. It is my honor to introduce you to Jassica Nia. How you doing today, Jassica?
Hey, Andrew, doing great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for joining and just coming on here to share with everyone your journey, your story, and your mission. Um, I had actually heard your story. I don't remember how I came across it, if it was like Facebook or where it was, but I just heard you speaking and just sharing your story. And so I think I just added you and just put you on a list. And I wasn't even interviewing anyone back then, but I just said eventually I'm gonna like reach out to you and see if I can get you on the show. So I'm really excited actually to have you on to share, this battle that you went through, and then also, whatever happened that made you decide that you wanted to help others, because I think that's just so powerful when you can go through something and then help others to go through or to better themselves. So if you want to just maybe share a little bit of background about yourself, and then also, what was your life like before the cancer?
Great question. Right. So, what was my life like before cancer was nothing like my life now, even less the person that I am now. So, the girl, I was more of a girl, I think. Obviously, I was quite young then. And I think that girl was someone who was very insecure about who she is. And she hated her job. She was always questioning herself. And she was always very like caught up with those little things in life that actually has no meaning at all. Um, so for a good few years, um, before the diagnosis back in 2014, there was a lot of questioning. I was already going through an existential crisis, even when I was approaching my 20s, where I was questioning, everything as they are. Why do I have to go for a 9 to 5 job? What is my purpose? What am I doing here? Is this what my life is going to be? And like having this facade of, okay, I'm happy on the outside, this happy-go-lucky sort of girl, but she's not, and it's a very common thing for women to experience. And I suppose that will lead on to the reason why I'm actually very passionate about helping women who has experienced that, or no, who are experiencing that, or don't have the support in the environment to grow to bloom into the full version of who they can be, because
Yeah,
it's there.
were you working at the time? Just curious, like what kind of work or business you were in at the time.
So before the diagnosis, I was actually a forex trader.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah, I was actually I studied professional accounting by default, and I went into that corporate side, and then so I'm a bit of a rebel. Okay, I dropped out from my professional accounting certification, actually 2 papers into the final completion of the entire course. So that makes me a little bit of a rebel, because I already knew that I wasn't going to finish it. No, sorry, not that I wasn't going to finish it. I wasn't ever going to be a professional accountant. And at that point, I think I was coming closer to my truth and realizing that, okay, no, Jassica, just don't finish that, right? So all of that happened before a good few years before my diagnosis in 2014. Uh, and I was already on a path of, stepping into my truth. And this was really what I coach others through as well, in terms of ladies, not others, specifically ladies. Um, so that was that. And then it was really in 2013, I went through an online course with Neil Donald Walsh, one of these spiritual authors, that really sort of spiked my, I would call it a spiritual awakening, where I just stepped in deeper into it. And I don't really know if that's a catalyst, because then in the next 3-4 months, it's like my entire world was turned upside down. And I got diagnosed in May 2014. So that
Well,
was already
oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
there was already a shift happening, um, back, just about like a few months before I got diagnosed. And that was really the turn. Like that 2013 and 2014 was a real turn in who I, yeah, real turn to who I am today. That makes sense.
Yeah, so I mean, it sounds like, and let me know if I'm wrong, but it sounds like, during that more spiritual awakening, you kind of realized that you weren't headed in a path that was like aligned with you and maybe what you wanted to go. Is that kind of accurate, what I'm saying?
um, so I was already on the process of finding myself,
Mm-hmm.
and that was a lot of challenge, because the environment, even as I'm sat here talking to you now, it just, the memory of that was there was no support. Like I felt like I was constantly meeting obstacles here, through people, through um more people, and even my partner then. So that was very, very, very difficult. And but I suppose that's the but. That's where really I learned to speak up for myself. I learned to, tolerate the pressure in the environment, and learned to just stand my ground. That those years was really, they were really these building blocks, or the foundations that are needed for who I am today. But I saw that came to play um, during the time when I was diagnosed with leukemia, and I really stepped into making a decision of going through, not finishing chemotherapy, because doctors said that, oh, you have to do five sets of chemotherapy, and then you have to go through bone marrow transplant. And I had an exact match, which is quite rare to have an exact match. So that's the rebel again, And I was like, yeah, this is my life. I might
So hold
die.
on, I want to rewind a
Yeah.
little bit back to describe what it was like that day when they told you you had cancer. I want to know, like, what was that like?
The honest truth is, Andrew, it was just okay. I So a lot of people have asked me this question, but the truth is, when I was told that, I actually was in complete acceptance of it. My that's that's what I really, credit. I think that the real reason for that is because I've learned, really, that was a mastery there, because I've touched on Eckhart Tolle's work for some time. I don't know if you know him. It's actually the author of Power of Now, and he teach presence, and this having this ability to really be in the moment. And it's not so much about reacting to what comes to you, but more responding by really being in acceptance of that. So I really, so we can talk about all these, this intellectual knowledge, but when you're in it, that you've sort of gained some mastery over that, when you are in acceptance of a real issue, and you don't, or I didn't, I was just, okay, yeah, so what do we do now? It was really, really a genuine response like that, like, okay, so what do we do? And the doctor said, oh, well, you have to do chemotherapy, otherwise you have 2 weeks left. And I looked at him and go like, I'm not going to die in 2 weeks. But it's like, you have to go
Wow.
through chemotherapy. So I don't know. I think it's, yeah, there's some, okay, this will go into like the medical stuff, but that's really the prognosis that was given to me. And I was just pretty chill.
Yeah.
I was
What
really chill.
what led you though to like because I know with chemo, a lot of, or not chemo, leukemia, there's like tiredness that you can feel. Like what was it that led you to go to the hospital and to go seek medical treatment?
Yeah, so I was in American Express in the beginning of 2014. And I just started my job there. And what transpired was I was exhausted, very, very, very tired. And I thought it was because I just started the job, even though I loved it. I really loved it. It was the first time I was doing something I love. Um, but was also bleeding very heavily with each menstrual cycle. Like, if I'm sorry if it's a bit too much information, but I think this is important to know. It's one of the symptoms
Yeah.
uh, of literally if you have low blood platelets and high white blood cells. So you're actually, if it gets worse, you actually bleed internally, where people can bleed through their eyes or bleed,
Wow.
in their organs. Thankfully, I didn't have to go through that. But I was constantly bleeding. Like it was like bleeding perpetually over the month. Like I don't actually stop bleeding. And I was having huge ass bruises. So it looks like I was being abused, physically abused at home. And a coworker had
Wow.
asked me, yeah, a coworker asked me, are you sure you're not like nothing is happening at home? I was like, no, nothing's happening. But Jess, like, you're having these, bruises. You can tell us. So that was fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That is scary though, to get those bruises. And so you
Mm.
go in the doctor and you find that out. Um, so that obviously was an interesting battle. And I wanted to ask you, so they say, normally you need 5 rounds of chemo. Why did you decide to stop before getting all 5 rounds?
Yeah. So I always say this, if you lose your will or if you lose your mind, half the battle is lost. So if you lose your will to live, your battle, you're done 50%. I think this applies for many things in life. And I somehow, because I've learned what I've learned about the mind and our ability to really have a hand in shaping our world and our reality, I knew that my mind, or what is the vehicle or the channel to maybe a higher source of intelligence, whatever that is, um, that channel was becoming very clouded. I was losing that connection already to, everything that I felt will help me, go through all the tough stuff. So I call it a connection. I call it my connection with God, or if whatever you want to call that term, make that to be. So about the third cycle, I felt like I was losing myself. And
Yeah, that's powerful. That's really
yeah,
powerful.
yeah. And I felt like if I knew, no, I knew that my connection to source, or my connection, my will, my mind, is the gateway to my survival. For whatever reason, I just felt like it was a connection link, it was a channel link to God or source. And I felt like if chemotherapy was numbing me and it was causing all these physical effects that I can't control, I don't have control over. And it's like that if you have physical imbalances in your body, and this is a good point. Anybody has physical imbalances in your body, and you having difficulty connecting to yourself or feeling grounded, it's sometimes really not your fault. It is the body's issue, and you need to resolve that. So I refuse to. I was like, no. If I'm gonna have to, I know I will heal with this other way in terms of this connection. And if chemotherapy isn't helping it and causing a lot more pain, no, I decided that I will heal without that. I decided that I want to heal without all this physical side effects and pain, because I was going through physical pain every other day. Because when you go to chemotherapy, you don't have these stuff. Don't have veins. Like it just sinks right into your skin, so they can't find it. So now you can see. I think you can see. Like you can see my veins.
Mhm.
But when
Yeah.
you go through chemotherapy, you're basically anemic, so they can't find
Mm.
these buggers,
Wow.
and so they have to poke around like everywhere just to extract blood for checkups every
Wow.
um every 2 days. So that was, and imagine that I was in hospital, at least talk about quarantine and isolation. I've gone through all of that. Tiny room, you can't go out because you have low immune system, you're at a risk. And then it's like 30 days at a time. Some people go to 40 days. I was lucky because I was like 29 days, like meditating, like I'm gonna be okay by 29 days. Let me out of here. Every other day it was going through that. They need to check you. So I
Wow.
decided, no, I want to be at home. I want to heal without chemotherapy. I want my connection with source. I feel like that's the only way I will really heal, because that's where I can find and attract other solutions, if you like. So
Right.
really, yeah, who I am now, even during the time when I was going through chemotherapy, I mean, the leukemia and the healing process was really like a molding. I really saw the power of our
Your
minds.
mind.
My mind is powerful. Like you set
Yeah.
your attention on it, boom, you make
Yeah, I
something happen.
totally agree. That's a big philosophy of mine is that, you really have to work on developing your mindset. And it sounds like you had gotten to that point too. That's pretty powerful when you had even been told that, and your level of acceptance on what it was and what you could control was your mindset. Um, so what I want to know is, so then that battle, I believe, from what I had read from you, was it was about a year and a half, right, to go through that battle. Um, what was it then that inspired you to then go from, what your career was before, to then saying, I want to be a coach and I want to help other people? What was it, the cancer? Was there a moment outside of the cancer that caused you to make that shift?
So what I'm doing now today as a coach, actually, the honest truth with this was I was running away from being a coach for a long, long time. That's the honest truth, because I just didn't, truthfully, didn't agree with the definition of it then. But really, during going back to those days of diagnosis and leukemia, this is what I said, and this is kind of like not a bargain, a deal I made with God or source or the universe. I was saying, I said this: give me the solution, give me the solution, and I will share this with the world. So really, that I mean, ever since then, really, I've been sharing little snippets here and there. What part of the core of what I do initially was manifestation, because I was really teaching the core of what I've done before. And it's so beautiful, because as I learn and go in depth studying other teachers and experts, I realize that, if you in manifestation or creation, if you like, there is a code. If you are tapped into the right source or the right frequency, there's a code. Everybody is talking about similar stuff, but doing it in slightly different variations. I'm talking about, the real transformation in terms of the body, mind, physique, and we'll go a bit deeper into that if you want. So yes, that really, I knew that I was going to want to share this and be a teacher at some point, but I didn't know how, I didn't know where that was going to go back then. Um, but here's where it's at. When I didn't, well, okay, chemotherapy, sorry, leukemia really caused a lot of financial issues. Okay,
Hmm. What
so
happened with that?
sorry.
Yeah. So what was that like, the financial issues, and how did you kind of work through that?
Yeah, that was a good 5 years of learning. So check this out. I was very into the spiritual realm because I felt like that was really what healed me and find me the solution. So I sort of manifested or just found an incredible treatment that cures leukemia and blood cancers and all these weird stuff. And I would be very careful with cure because obviously modern medicine or conventional treatment would, you know, they would argue against that. Um, but in my opinion, if you've met a good number of people like physically, face to face, because I went to India and heard of their stories, you've got something then. I'm one of them. So I went through that. Anyway, financially, right? How did I go through spiritual? So I had to I polished that, and then it's kind of like this. You've when I was 1.5 years of healing from leukemia in quarantine and isolation, literally at home, because the treatment was weird, and the treatment is another completely like out of this world story, Andrew, because you can't shower, you have to go vegetarian. Yeah, you can't bath for 5 days at a time. You can only use boiled water. So you imagine the degree of isolation. I can't go
Wow.
out and go into the sun or touch rainwater. It's just crazy. The regime
Have
was
you
very, very
have you ever
weird.
heard of Dr. Sabi before?
No, no.
Okay, yeah, just you can look him up later, but just kind of compare some of his stuff. I don't know a ton about all of Dr. Sabi's work, but he was known for curing a lot of different diseases. So with very natural, natural methods, but definitely something to look into. I would just be curious. I only asked because I was curious to see if there were any similarities, but I know that being vegetarian and eating very specific, even not even all vegetables, there are very specific types of food that you had to eat. And a lot of it had to do with acidity too.
Yeah, so mine is Ayurvedic, so it's like Indian sort of treatment. I think I have to point out here that my treatment is kind of contradictory to many other alternative treatments because you can eat a lot of carbs because that's the only and you need those carbs. You need rice and pasta, whatever, cheese. But it's vegetarian and even just specific kinds of you like for example, I can't eat mangoes, I can't eat tamarind, and that's it really. And when I can eat fish again, I can only eat specific kinds of fish. Yeah, so the treatment itself is a different ball game. So going back to the isolation part, so that's like isolation completely. So I was going to go to the story of being in that realm of feeling like, like you're in isolation and feeling like when you come out, like you're this baby chicken, like you feel like you're just reborn again. And imagine at 26, 25, 26, and you just look back and you go, oh my God, I've lost like 1.5 years of my career. And you feel like you don't know nothing at all. What the hell's going on? So then there was like the spiritual into the material. Literally, I just felt like I was reborn and I had to learn all the rules again. I knew, I wasn't going to go back to 9 to 5. At that point, I knew that I don't want to be tied up with 9 to 5. I was already even questioning my job then. So in American Express, I did really well, and that was one of the reasons why they. Oh, I don't know if I should say this here. Um, yeah, well, American Express really rewarded. They do reward their employees. Okay, I wasn't. I
You don't
wasn't
have to
even a.
go into too much detail if you think it's going to get you in
Yeah,
trouble, but
yeah,
um,
no, but they really support their employees like really well, financially. I was just a probationary employee, but they're so supportive, and this is really a good name. It's a good thing for them. I just wasn't sure I should reveal the numbers, but they really do support you, and they supported me because my treatment like is really expensive. In Malaysia terms, I think if you do one-on-one, it's like just for like 10 days, it's like 40,000. in like 40,000. If we look at it one to one, is I think it's about there like 40,000 ringgits, Malaysia, which is about like
And
10
10,000 US.
yeah, for 10 days in these
Okay.
private
Wow.
yeah. So I mean, thankfully I was supported then. So, but
So
you know,
American Express helped you with those bills then?
because I didn't have insurance.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Yeah, that's gotta be expensive.
Yeah, yes. So I don't really know how I got through all that, but I did. I just knew I did. So that's again, something with to do with the mind and everything, the divine timing, alignment. So but even with all of this stuff, and I was performing, doing really well, and I had, good relationship with this incredible boss of mine, this lady boss. And I loved American Express, because that back then it was this international environment where my boss was like Italian. And so, working with this and I was working with different, Australian, New Zealand merchants. So it's really what I loved, but I knew that it still wasn't what I wanted. I knew that I'm still working for somebody else's vision. So when I came out 1.5 years in after recovery, I was like, nah, I need to do I want to do something. That's this nut, I think you would have gone through that. Like this feeling like it's not complete, like there's something else. I need to go for that something else. So I went to being a freelancer. The first job I came out from, first job I did after leukemia was I went to being a barista. Like, those like my favorite local coffee shop. And I went in there like meeting people and it was a great time of my life, doing all this stuff and also like not earning much and singing because I was also a performer and a singer. So I was just like singing on the side.
Oh, that's
Um,
cool.
yeah, I was in the Malaysian entertainment industry for a while in terms of like, the TV stuff. Um, and then yeah, so that was really the time when I needed to learn about finances and money and being responsible for my stuff because then I racked up a lot of debts because my partner wasn't working because he was taking care of me. I wasn't working. Everything was on the credit card, you know. Um, yeah, so that was really back. Oh, it was only in 2017 18 when I began to really take full control of or began to really take ownership of my finances. And I was doing freelancing. I was doing all this little work just to get, the money. And then I went into digital marketing. I went into social media and I did all of this, like, finding clients. And really that was really the beginning of the turn of my financial, it was still very, very difficult. It was still very, very rough. But I then found my entrepreneurial spirit. Like I really, really went out there and, sold to clients and got my clients and saved out finally and, begin to travel again I think in the year 2018. But it wasn't really back in the late October 2019 when everything changed. And that was the catalyst to and the spur of the beginnings of my manifestation program where it became something that I teach till today, but just in another format. Not in another format, but just wrapped up in another thing for whoever who's working with me. He is working with me even at this moment. That was the beginning of me creating a program and realizing that I have something that is like it's methodical. Like if you repeat that process and you know where to go in and change certain things.
You had a
Yeah.
system. Yeah, a system that you could
Yeah.
plug people into.
Yeah. And that was by accident. It was more like the story was back in 2019. For a good few years, I was always having this place where no, I'll tell you that. I'll give it this. For a good 5 years, I couldn't pay my rent. We couldn't pay my rent for a good 3-4 years. Like there was always this constant struggle, constant monthly struggle on top of my recovery. Can't pay the rent, struggle with paying the car. up until like 2019, it was more of a stability because I was staying in this lovely friends. Like she gave me a room and I was paying her like, the minimal amount. And there was then I was beginning to take responsibility for my finances. And can you imagine, Andrew, like the struggle was so real because it's like you can't afford, you really can't. I couldn't afford that. Like even, I was working on like I think less than $100 dollars a month on food, you
Oh,
know, because yeah, and
mhm.
the good thing was my clients are in F&B, so then at least they support that, or they will provide food, and that's how I live off, Um,
Wait,
but I
sorry,
was
where were your clients? I missed that part.
yeah, my clients were in the food and beverage industry. So my clients
Oh,
in the
food and
beginning,
beverage. Okay.
yeah, they were in the restaurant industry. And that was perfect, that was just perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, it helped. So up until 2019, the struggle was so real, like in terms of not having a stable roof, like even the place that was staying was just, not the best place, like, I mean, man, I hope she's, yeah, I'm talking about like roaches, maggots, like,
Yeah, that's rough. That's
yeah,
rough.
yeah. So then I moved into this new place with this friend. And that's the funny thing. Again, I was shoved out from the house because of a silly misunderstanding. So this time it wasn't because of the money, but I knew that I had this pattern with not having a stable roof. So like again in about 2019, there was the silliest misunderstanding, which until today, like I cannot get. Like we both like, what was that all about? Like what happened, right? But looking back now, that was the turn. That was the most pivotal moment, I think, in my 6 years of like this period. Like that was the most pivotal moment that needed to happen. Because after that month, things were never the same again in my financial life, in the place that I stayed. I stayed for 1.5 years in this beautiful apartment, you know, after having like really focusing on this turning around my money story, my money game, and doing all these processes to remove those fears, which is what I teach. And it was really then where, I manifested like double the amount of money that I used to. Like and don't get me wrong, when I say manifested, I needed to do the groundwork. Okay. So it's not like you just sit down
Absolutely.
here and like meditate with crystals. No, 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 no. There was a lot of groundwork. There was a lot of this, I would call it, there was some degree of hustling needed. And creating contracts, talking, finding, meeting
Yeah.
people.
I'm glad that you mentioned that because I think that when people hear manifest, a lot
Yeah.
of times they just think, and I've listened in on certain things and people talking about manifestation, and it's almost like it does come across that way, but no, you still got to put in the work. But I do believe you need to have a massive belief in yourself, and so that's part of it too, I believe. So the manifestation, the belief, the work will eventually manifest things.
So on this note, right, I think there are different types of people. Some people on this, I'm just responding to what you said. Some people have to go out there and create. I don't know if you heard of human design.
Explain that one.
Okay.
I might
So
have, but maybe I just don't remember the term.
yes, so there are people who are in human design. There are basically, I think, 4 or 5 archetypes. There's manifestors, and I know it's kind of weird. I don't know why they call it manifestors, but these guys have to go out there and make things happen, but they don't necessarily have the energy to complete projects. Then there is manifesting generators, and that's another different thing. I don't really know. They're quite rare as well. They're quite rare, like the manifestors. And then there's the generators, which is made up of like about 47 to I think 57% of the population of the world. Don't quote me on statistics, but you get the gist. It's about like 30,
More
40.
people are in that
Yeah,
group.
I'm a generator. And these people, the difference between manifestors and generators, And again, don't get attached with the word manifestors because it's just a term. I don't know why they use that. But literally, these people can go out there and initiate things. And I believe a lot of these experts, I'm sure you've heard of Grant Cardone.
Yeah, I've heard
Yeah,
of Grant Cardone. He's
yeah,
got the 10X rule book. Very,
yeah. I
very
love
good
him.
book.
Yeah. And I think that he is probably, I don't know, I believe that he's one of those who, associate with a lot of hard work to make things happen because a lot of these people they need to initiate things. Whereas generators, in my experience, there's this timing thing. Some people will experience like no matter how hard you try, it doesn't, if the timing is not there yet, it doesn't actually happen. And that's just how it is. And we get confused, like, how does this work? So I think, not I think, I feel and sense that there is a balance in play because with manifestation, especially with my when I was looking back at all the patterns in my life, I asked myself, like, and I was comparing certain circumstances because this year, I also experienced moments where it's like, well, no matter what I do, what I try, however I try to push something to happen, it didn't happen in the way I wanted it to. And then I asked myself, what is the missing link? Because there is. And I came up with that and I realized that there's an element to that, which is what I call the feminine side of manifestation. So the masculine aspect of manifestation is setting the intention, creating the structure. You do actually need to set the intention and do all these stuff, whether it's breathing techniques or like writing down your intentions or making a call. That's also the masculine part of manifestation. But the other equation that we miss for generators, for people who needs to be initiated. And I call it initiated, meaning there is a nudge. You will know when it's time to move. And you will know when whatever that you're trying at this point isn't working out because for whatever reason. And we can't explain it. I'm sure you have an experience with that too at some
Oh,
point.
I definitely have. This is yeah, that's actually a really cool conversation because um even when it's with working with people, right? You just have that feeling like what I'm trying isn't working, but now it's time for me to seek help. And I've had experiences where it's like I need help in this thing, and then bam, that person just is right there. And so I mean, even with
So
speaking, I'll just say this real quick, just give you a real life example is doing this when I knew I was gonna create Expanding Wallet, um, I knew I had to get over my fear of public speaking. And I was actually in a personal development leadership type of course. And the very first person that got chosen to kind of go through this system and go up in front of everybody and had to be up there for about 40 minutes and I mean talk about some very deep personal stuff. Um, she was in my group and I remember just thinking like, wow, she was such a great like speaker, even though that was such a tough topic. And we ended up being friends and I asked her, what do you do for a career? And she's a world-class speaker and she trains people how to speak. And I literally said to her, because I had that feeling that you're talking about, and I said, one day I'm going to call you and I'm going to have you train me. And that's what happened. A year later, I've been trained by her. So um, that's why I'm a big believer in, um, know where you want to go. And, a lot of what you're saying is like, trust those feelings. I can, I think I had said something about this a little bit ago, but I said, I work a lot of times in faith as opposed to a lot of logic, and things work out.
yeah, and let's start following that. So that's the part of okay. Here's what it is too, right? A lot of people ask, or I wondered this question myself. Does things really just happen miraculously? Do things just really just drop into your lap? I will tell you though, yes, they do. Yes, they freaking do. They do drop in your lap. When is the right timing? Okay, like when it's apple season,
Exactly.
you're not going to have peaches.
Exactly. And I've told, I mean, I was actually helping friends kind of do this, do things that, you know, kind of follow their dreams, before expanding wallet. And I always say, you know, work hard to prepare yourself for when those opportunities come, because if you haven't done the work, they're going to pass you by, or they're going to slip through your hands. So it's very powerful stuff.
Yes, yes. So here's the thing that I really want to share, like in terms of, manifestation, and we're going into that because I tell you that my entire life is that when I that was the okay, let me just share the story. Before I found my treatment, you have to understand the context of the situation. I was told that there's none of it. Don't bother looking. There's no, like the statistics are that people don't cross beyond the 5 year mark. I'm in my seventh year. And also my partner then has done through a lot of reading. So he's a bit of a nerd. So he reads and reads and research and research and research. And like what other options there are. And me being the stubborn ass that I was very stubborn. I was like, look, I know I'm going to recover. Nobody's going to tell me otherwise. I know everybody's afraid, but this is my life. So I decided that, okay, I'm not going to read up on all these statistics and all these documents that's going to say that, okay, if you do this, you might have relapse or whatever it is. So the work that I needed to do before 6 weeks before I found my treatment. So Andrew, you have to understand, and for people listening to this, is that a relapse can happen anytime. When you're diagnosed with something, especially with my condition, anytime, you don't know. The complications is what kills you, actually. Like, so you might get like an infection, you might get this other stuff because you have low immunity. Okay. So there was this constant fear, and any cancer patients or anyone who's been diagnosed with cancer will know this fear. You're living with a time bomb. So I was just like, okay, anytime. And I knew that all I needed to do, this is a knowing. I know that all I needed to do was to keep those cancer cells at bay enough until I find a solution, whatever that means, whether it is like a spontaneous recovery, because I've heard a lot of that, or I find something else that helped me. But I also I was working with surrendering to the fact that I might need to do chemotherapy. So there's this balance about success, and you wanting success so much, but you also need to be okay with failure. And that's the fine line. Because if you're just success and you're resisting failure, okay, you're gonna go there very quickly. That's I laugh because that's the part that I think a lot of people miss. That's what I call the surrender aspect, or I call the feminine aspect of manifestation. So a lot of people get really caught up with the what the hell is femininity or feminine. And I think we all get it so wrong because of this feminine movement. But really, feminine aspect in terms of how I see it or how I know it to be is receiving. So it's like, imagine, like, I don't want to go into too much details in the male and female anatomy, but the masculine is like more like a giver or a pursuer, and the masculine energy, and then the feminine is the receiving one. So even in manifestation, we set the intention and the structure, and that's the masculine, and the feminine aspect is the surrender and letting go. I bring this up because without that aspect, without this, I needed to surrender to the fact and the probability that I might die in the process of finding a treatment which might not even exist. And I had this spiritual mentor, teacher, and she was really rough. She said, Jessica, you need to accept that you might die. What if you die in 2 days, in 2 months? That was very hard. Can you imagine, as somebody who was like, okay, I'm going to create my life and I'm going to do all of this thing and I'm going to this. And she said to me bluntly, you might die. You going to be okay with that? She said, you have to be okay with that.
You do. It's true.
And also I was like, okay, I knew. So the one thing that was working in my favor was I knew that if I were to feel any more negative emotions, that wasn't going to help my body. I just knew it. So I didn't want to dig a hole with that and argue with that. I was just like, okay, okay, okay. So I was just like, going to meditation and just really making peace with that. I don't know how I did it, but I just did. I
Mhm.
just, okay, just if you die and doctors say that you might die in 2, 3 days or 5 days, you got to be okay with that. Like, really, I can't say this is all just very superficial right now because it was very deep then. And it
Mhm.
was, and that day, Andrew, this is what's so cool about this. That day when I surrendered to this, surrendered, like really, like, okay, fine, fuck this. Excuse me, my language. Screw this. You can read me out.
Bleep. No, I'm just kidding.
And yeah, I was
You can
like,
be real, 100%.
screw this. Okay, I might die. Okay. 2 hours, Andrew, 2 hours, 6 weeks into coming out from the hospital. In that day, in 2 hours, I found my guy.
Wow.
And just by, I kid you not, like I swear, going just by a few clicks, I literally just did 2 clicks. I went into a forum. I was like, okay, I surrendered. I literally surrendered. I was like, all right, I'm just going to read out on some document. I stopped resisting it. I just thought I was going to go
Mhm.
read some stuff about my leukemia. And so this is where we go. Just do it. Because I was already like, okay, I'm not pushing anything. I'm not making anything happen. Let me just find out, learn a little bit more about my treatment, my condition. And I went into this forum, and this scammy looking forum. And then
Mm.
I scrolled down and saw this line: acute myeloid leukemia is a curable condition. And the rest is freaking history. No
Wow.
looking back. And I went to India the next, I think, next 5 days. Found the
Wow.
money for it, found the finances for it, got a friend's help, and done. Like, boom, like, no more. Like, that was it.
Wow. That's powerful. Yeah, I don't want to take up too much time on speaking on that because I'm not an expert on that. But I have been through certain courses, including that personal development one, and I've heard similar stories when people have faced death and when they accept it and just understand that they may lose that battle. It's amazing because a lot of them have said um, that they go on then to, and some of them actually did pass away, but they went on to live some of their best days because they made the most of whatever time they had left with their family and loved ones. And so yeah, it's a interesting thing on mindset and how how you live going forward. I want to I just want to bring up something too, because I do know a few people who have faced cancer. Have one also. My other speaking coach was Les Brown, and so he uh, definitely battled cancer. And so one thing I realized with people that, especially cancer, but I'm assuming people who have come close to death or that it's so imminent to them, they're more like enlightened and also inspirational in a sense too, and basically focus on the things that really matter in life. You kind of started off with that as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's I mean, you can't help that, right? Because, oh, okay. Imagine at the age of 24, you're hospital bound with tubes sticking down your chest and your hands and your fingers, and you realize that you've done pretty much nothing with your life and you've been living in fear for the last 10 years, and you're totally gonna die and you've done nothing. That's the most horrifying thing ever. I think that's why I lived my life in a way that I only want to do what I love. I want to be true to that because I ain't gonna, no. That's that in fact, if I have a biggest fear, it will be because I haven't done what I said I want to do. And then I don't have time left. So if I'm gonna die today, I should be happy. In fact, when we were talking about this now, I was asking myself, shit, what else have I done all that I could? Have I done it? So it's like, have I done all that I could? Have I said all I need to say? Am I have I done it? Because here's the thing, Andrew, and that's my legacy. I want to, when I die, that people will remember me and, you know, and just remember me. My community will remember me. I've done that impact. That's actually what I want. That's kind of like the legacy that I want to leave behind. Then that when I die, it's like when I die, yes, Jessica said this. And it's just something because I realized that I thought I was gonna die and I felt like I would have done nothing at all. That terrified me,
That's
and now it's like scary. It's scary.
part of why I do these interviews is, a lot of times that I feel like just imagine if that feeling, if people would just kind of let go of the fear and just do what they want. Imagine if you had lived your whole life like that, how powerful that would be, that feeling. And that's again, like, that's something I had to work on, going through those personal development leadership courses that I took, and just being around certain supportive people. I think that's really important. So that's so powerful. I know we got to wrap up here soon. So I just want to like ask you, what message would you give to someone who might be might be battling cancer or some other disease? What would you say to them?
Wow. I don't know why it's difficult to answer this question. The reason is because I'm finding a challenge answering that question because everyone has a different journey. So if there's a message is trusting your intuition, like if you want to live and yeah, if you want to live and you have this burning desire, like, and I remember this guy, and was really what stuck with me. I can't remember his name now. That he went out into the waters and he shoved the story about a guy's head got shoved down into into the waters. And this guy, and the reason was he wanted him to experience how your desire to be successful has to be as bad as you wanting to breathe, needing to breathe, you know. And if you can actually have that desire and do it in a way that's not desperate, um, and figure out how to really believe and know that to be true, there's hope. And that's one thing, that there is hope and there will always be hope. I was very blessed with the knowing that I was going to live. So that was a blessing that I had. And everybody's journey is so different. I don't view death as a bad thing. That's also what I want to say. I don't. I don't. And the reason why we're also afraid of it is because we don't really know. It's the unknown and we leave everything behind. And it's not just for people who have cancer, but what can you do today that will make your life the best one? What can you do today that will make your day and the people around you and yourself the best? Okay, because don't be if we don't make this death thing and passing over thing to be such a big deal, then we have everything here. So whatever the journey will take you, um, it it shouldn't don't let it be such a huge deal as important as what you do right now. Now is the most important, more important than anything else, because right now is all we have, and it's only being in this moment, in that you the power you have the potential to change things in this moment, not tomorrow, not before, and then let and then the path and the way will be open to you, and just trusting that.
Yeah,
Mm,
that's a powerful message, to really live in the now. It's really
yeah.
powerful. And the thing about the journey too, everyone will face certain challenges. And I'm a big believer in that we grow with our challenges. So we need those challenges to shape us, to mold us, to make us better. So with that, I want to ask you, how can people reach you?
Uh, that's my website. If they would like to see what I do, or there's also my Facebook and Instagram at Jassica Nia. I'm very active on my Facebook because I have a private community there. But this is really for ladies. I might open up for a group for more inclusive of boys and girls. But yeah, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram as well. Jassica Nia. So it's
Okay.
Jassica, not JE.
I know it's very common, well, very common way is to the JE, but I'll put both of those down in the description below so people can find you with those links. And then I have something for you for being a guest, taking the time to share with the Expanding Wallet community, because I definitely know there's a lot that I can share on the building wealth piece, some inspiration, but I do like to share stories of others because when I was younger, it wasn't just money and those things that I was learning at 15. I was reading books, especially autobiographies of people who were leaders in the world and who were very successful. And it was reading about their journey that gave me hope. And so that's why I do these interviews is to help people, gain hope because that sometimes is the most powerful thing that we have. So I want to give you a shirt, expanding wallet shirt, as appreciation for you being on. And it says learn, believe, grow, which I'm a big believer in those three. Really, that will help you in so many ways in life. And you'll hear it at the end on my catchphrase. But with that, I wanted to say too, I've got the 5 keys to success guide. I'll also put that in the description below. Um, Basically just sharing, some of my life as far as the 5 keys that I believe have helped me become successful and how you can implement those in your life, including learn, believe, grow. And Jessica, once again, I just want to thank you again for, taking the time, being vulnerable, sharing with us what, the journey that you went through, and then how you're helping people as well.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Andrew. Thank you so much. Enjoyed this.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And with that, I'll just say, remember to learn all that you can, believe in yourself, and take actions that allow you to grow.